This episode will be maybe just for one person, and that's it. Maybe it will be for you, but the probability is that it's not going to be for you. Let's be honest here, guys. Not everyone will create a legendary movement. Not everyone will dare. Not everyone will have the interest. Not everyone will have the sense of adventure that is needed in order to actualize this episode. And judging by 6 years of experience that I have been sharing personal development content on social media, what I have noticed is that most people, even the people that is following me for years, they don't change their personality enough in order to be able to actualize the massive idea that I will propose to you today. That is a sad thing. I am not telling you this as a denigration or with a sense of superiority. I am telling you this with a real sense of compassion and even a little bit of sadness, because I used to have the fantasy that most of my fans, that most of my students were actually re-engineering their psyche and their spirit. But after 6 years of experience, what I have noticed is that maybe only 15% at most, maybe 10% of my students are really changing the structure of their existence. And most of the students that really change are the ones that are going uh, to the paid content, to the courses, to my coaching programs, stuff like that. But for the people just that consume my free content, maybe just 10% of them are changing their ways. Yes, maybe you can hear a good tip in my episodes. Maybe you can laugh a little bit. Maybe you can change a small habit, and that is all good. Maybe changing a small habit, you change a little bit your life. You make it better in one area, maybe in your business, maybe in your body, maybe in your language, maybe in your intellect. That's all good, man. But I'm telling you, in order to actualize this idea of this episode in particular, it's not only actualizing one idea, it's not only changing one habit. This is about changing your whole approach in life. This is upgrading your mindset and your social intelligence to a degree that you will be able to uplift a legendary movement, a social cultural movement. And let's be serious here. Let's be honest. Most of you will not do this. So the fantasy that most people will be able to engineer their life with my content just pop off. Maybe a couple of years ago, maybe 1 year ago, I realized that no, just only the few, only the real crazy ones are doing real personal development work. Most people are really listening to this podcast just as they listen a radio station, or exactly as they listen or watch their favorite Netflix TV show for escapism, because they like some of my ideas, and that's it, but nothing more. And that is very sad, seriously. But my only faith is that one day you will wake up. Maybe one day, that is my hope. Maybe one day one of these ideas will just break your conformism, will break your sedentarism, and you will push yourself to new boundaries. And maybe one day One sunny day, one wonderful day, you will create your own movement. But I am spiritually prepared for this podcast to be only for one person. I am convinced then about that one person is gonna create a legendary movement after listening to this podcast. And if I can contribute to that, it will be all worth it. Of course, hopefully, it will be a very positive movement. You can create a very horrific movement. Hitler with the Nazis, those were a movement, but it was a very, very bad, horrific, violent movement. So, my hope is that someone will create a movement, maybe inspired or maybe motivated, or maybe some of the ideas will click in their mind and they will create this. This person will create this, maybe two persons, maybe three. And I hope it will be a legendary, positive movement for the whole humanity, for our species. So please be that person. Please transcend your limiting beliefs. Please envision during this episode what can be your movement. Take this seriously. Take notes. Meditate on this every day for the rest of your life. And even when you are not ready, start your movement. Get out there. Expose your ideas. Apply what I will be teaching you. And maybe one day we will change the world. And welcome to the most transformative podcast in the multiverse. This is the Movement Mastermind Podcast Challenge Season 2 with your host, your favorite doctor of all time, the Papacito of Puerto Rico, Dr. Derek, and this is the episode 603. My friend, I don't want you to create a business. If you're a business person, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're someone that is thinking about commercial dynamics in your life, transcending wage slavery, transcending being an employee, and going forward with business, I don't want you to create a business. I don't want you to create a product, a course, a computer, a phone, a car, a plane, a perfume, a hot pocket, a new juice, a new panties. I don't want you to create a product. I don't want you to create a service. Your psychiatric service, your medical service, your lawyer service, your massage service. Forget about it. I don't want you to create a group, a fraternity, what else? An organization, a nonprofit, a profit organization, whatever, a labor organization. I don't want you to create a WhatsApp group, a Telegram group, a Messenger group, a Facebook group. Forget about it. And you may ask, why, Derek? These things are good, man. If you are trying to be a leader, if you have some ideas, well, you create a business, you create a product, you create services, you create groups, you organize people. That is leadership, man. Why are you saying that you don't want us to do that? That sounds crazy. Man, I don't want you to do that because I don't want you to think little in your life. Of course, I want you to create a business. Of course, I want you to create a good, conscious product. Of course, I want you to deliver the best service as possible. And of course, I want you to become a leader of a group. Hey, that is what is this podcast all about, right? I have been teaching you these principles 600 episodes on Spanish, on English, on Chinese. No, not Chinese. But I want you to think more macro perspective, more transcendental. I want you to create not a business, not a product, not a service, not a group. I want you to create a movement. Just breathe that idea. Just notice with your consciousness how that idea vibe in your spirit. I want you to create a movement. And notice how that is more powerful, more deep, more profound, more complex, more serious, more impactful, more intelligent, more conscious, more alive, more dynamic, with more energy than just a business, a product, a WhatsApp group. Just notice you are creating a movement. And that word, movement, is very particular, huh? A movement is something that is moving, obviously. It's something that is changing from one space to another space. But notice, a movement, in order for something to move, it needs to transform. So it's a transformative principle. You cannot move, you cannot even make a step in your life, like literally a step, one foot in front of the other without transformation. You need to metabolize nutrients in your cells. You need to exchange oxygen. You need to exchange neurotransmitters that are communicating to your legs to move one in front of the other, right? You need to think about it, at least unconsciously. So you are not only transforming your position in space and time, because in 1 second you was in one space, in the other second you are in another place, and there's a nexus there that is also related with time. So you are not only transcending space and time, but also you are transforming or transmuting inner substance. And that is just one step, one foot in front of another. But just imagine a big movement, like, for example, a political movement. Just imagine how many transformations, psychological, cultural, social, artistic, political, economical transformations will be on movement or present in a political movement. Just notice, it's a very complex movement. But nevertheless, the unit of the movement, the principle, is transformation. So every movement demands a transformation So if you want to create a movement, that's why I start a little bit pessimistic and I told you, hey, probably you are not the guy, you are not the woman that is going to create this, because this will demand not only transformation but transubstantiation. You need to transmute your substance, and that is a term from Christianity. It's a very powerful term, transubstantiation. Just Google it, man. I will do maybe a podcast um in the future about it, because I'm researching a lot about it and I am also meditating a lot about it because I'm obsessed with transmuting my essence, my substance. It's not the same to change, for example, your psychology or your body, than to basically transmute your essence. That is a whole new thing. That is a whole different level. That is basically modifying God. That is internal alchemy right there. You see, and I'm studying that a lot. So that is what will be necessary for you to create a legendary movement. You need to transform your whole existence into someone that is capable of transforming so many variables that will be needed in order to create a movement. So a business can be a movement. And thinking about a business that may be a movement, maybe Tom's, the shoes or the sneakers. You know, if you buy one of those, they give away another pair to people that are poor, right? People that doesn't have enough resources. But but they create that as a promotion, of course, but they impart solidarity. They represent altruism. They represent giving to others when they are in need. So Toms, they are not just a pair of sneakers, a company that sells that. They are a movement. And of course, you can find a lot of companies. For example, Apple, they're just not a tech company. They're a movement. They are moving in a direction for years, and sometimes they get lost and sometimes they forget about it and then they come back. But the movement that Apple represent is the combination of technology and art. They want to make tech that can bring art to fruition with smoothness of process. That is the original vision of the founders. Sometimes they fail, sometimes they do it very good, but nevertheless, they try to be a movement. I'm not telling that they are perfect. They have a lot of bad things going on with their policies, with their commercial structures, um, with their governance, a lot of bad things. You know, these big companies, Google, Facebook, Amazon, they have a lot of bad things, but they become a movement. They represent something. So a group can also become a movement. Just maybe you can relate to Black Matter, how Black Lives Matter. You know, maybe that at first was just a couple of black individuals organizing themselves to be heard, and then social catastrophes broke up, and now they are a big organized social movement that is awakening the world of racism and about bad things that we non-black dudes do to not only black dudes but to other people. Like Hispanic lives matters as well, you know, Asian lives matters as well, and even white lives matters as well. Like we cannot forget, the white race has been predominantly the race that is most racist, but you know their lives as well matter, and we cannot demonize the entire race because some of them has been racist through history. So every life matter, actually. It's like human lives matter. But just notice how a group, a specific race, has organized to create a movement. Feminism is a movement as well, and more movements that you can research for your own. But I just want you to start thinking. So let's say that you want to create a group in your university. Well, think big, man. Don't think just I'm gonna create a group here in my university. No, create a movement like feminism, something that changed the history of humanity. Oh, Derek, that is gonna be so difficult. Yes, it will be. I am not doing this episode because this is a easy thing to do. This is one of the most difficult thing to do, to create movements. But hey, this is what changed the historical context of our world, and you can do it. If you think that you can do it, you will be able to do it. But of course, in practice, will be more difficult than just in theory. So let's go to more practical aspects of how can you actually make this done. So you need to understand something very important. Movements represent something. So if you want to create a movement, you need to be very clear what is the thing that you are representing. For example, feminism, in their core, they are representing the woman's equals right with men. Blacks lives matter as well. They are representing an equality of race in America and in the world. So they know what they represent, and that is the big macro vision that they have for their movement. So you need to have this. And this representation needs to move people, needs to be enough profound enough in order to be important for people, in order to drive people to action. One of my favorite movement leader is called Pedro Albizu Campos. He's Puerto Rican, and he created an independence movement back in the day. I don't remember the years, maybe 19 something probably. And he was always talking to Puerto Ricans about the injustice that the United States have done to Puerto Rico and his people, like injustice, like experimenting with them for new pills, non-conceptive pills or anticonceptive pills, and war weapons in Vieques and stuff like that. Economical experiments as well, biological experiments. And he was always referring to those things and representing always what our life can be if we are independent. And that was the whole discourse for his movement. And his movement was so powerful in Puerto Rico back in the day that he was basically considered a villain in the United States, a terrorist. And he was imprisoned, tortured, killed because he created a very powerful movement. Now in Puerto Rico, Well, the Independence Party exists as a political party, but it's a joke. It's a joke. Why is a joke? Because we don't have a very strong leader that is creating a movement. We just have a very lazy, weak politicians that say that they want independence, but that's it. They don't have that representation. They cannot materialize that vision in the minds of Puerto Rico. And that's why Puerto Rico, most of the people are now kind of wanting to be a state of the United States. And I am not in favor of being a state. I am not also an independent kind of promoter, but I'm just trying to give you some of the facts with a Hispanic cultural example. So you need to know exactly what you represent, man. And that thing needs to move souls. I have been creating my own movement 6 years ago. I started, and this whole business of Derek Israel always was designed from the day one to be a movement. I am not just a guy that is doing videos. I'm not just a guy that is doing podcasts or that is doing coaching, psychology, blah, 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 writing books. No, that is products of the business. What this is really is a movement. Now, I am pretty aware that I am in the first steps of the movement. I have a long way to go. I have maybe 60, 70 years to go, and I will go with all my force and power. But since the first germ, this was designed to be a movement. And that's why I haven't changed the values of this business since day one. Yes, I can change some of the ideas. Of course, I mature. I am a thinker. I learn new things, new techniques. I I can err and I can do errors, mistakes. I'm a dynamic being. I change, but the principles of my movement they don't change. Like, what are my principles? You know, what are those? Personal development, spiritual expansion, happiness, life purpose, sexual mastery, love, consciousness, intelligence, to become a better humanity, to drive this world forward, to change the history of the multiverse, to become a leader. Those are the principles that never change. Now, the how to, the mechanics, the procedures, well, they change because I change, I discover new things, and also generation change. And I cannot be the same leader that I was with the millennial, for example. I cannot be the same leader with the Generation Z. One of the things that people ask me, oh, Derek, why are you doing so many short videos now? Well, because I am becoming a leader now of Generation Z. I am already a leader of the millennial generation. I did that 6 years ago. I don't care to do that anymore. Now I am going for the heart and souls of the people of the youth, Generation Z. And they like 1 minute videos. That's evolution, man. You know? And then the alpha generation will come, and uh, I will be maybe 35, 35, 40 years old when that generation is an adolescent, and I will change my ways also because that's evolution. So the principles do not change, but the mechanics and the hows to and the strategies, the day-to-day efforts, those have to change. And you, as a movement creator, need to be flexible enough, needs to be decisive enough in order to change these structures. Your whole survival as a movement depends on this. So once you know what you represent, you need to know what is the direction of your movement. One thing is to represent something, maybe love, but what is the direction of that love? In business, we call this the vision and the mission. The vision is how you visualize the world to be with your business. And the mission is how you will actualize that vision in the world. What are the actions? That is the direction. What are the definitive actions that that your movement will do in order to create what you want to create, man? The vision that you want to move forward. For example, if you are creating a massive political party, you have the vision, maybe liberty, maybe you are representing diversity, whatever. But then the direction, is to, for example, establish all the representatives of the party, convince every state that you are the best. That is the direction. To create a massive social media propaganda that is very conscious, not deceptive, but a very conscious propaganda about the real politics that you represent, and try to persuade conscious people to vote for you. That is a direction. Once you are in power, what are the specific policies that you will bring about, that you will conduct in order to change the institutions of your country, in order to make your promise a real thing, your political promise a real thing? What are those policies? Those are directions. Those are tangible things that you can put on paper, that you can put step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5, step 6. That is the direction. I'm telling you, my direction of this movement, of this personal development movement, my first step, and I'm still today in that step, is to become global, a global phenomena. That is the first step. Once that happens, and it will happen, the second step will be to transform profoundly those lives using the metaverse technology. A combination of the metaverse as a psychotechnology and a spiritual technology that only I, with my current wisdom and the wisdom that I will be acquiring, because I train for this every day of my life, I will be the only one to do this that I have on my mind, right? And I'm not telling you that I'm a special. Other people will do that, but in their own style. I can only do my own style, right? I can only bring my own fruit. And my fruit of my movement, it will be to transform people's life using this convergence of technologies in order for them to transform their circle of influence, the people of their lives. And I want to create a butterfly effect of transformation. And I hope that these butterfly effects, this exponential effect of transformation, will change the course of the history of humanity for better, for being a more conscious humanity, a more sophisticated humanity, a more lovable humanity. That is my direction. That is what I represent, and that is where I'm going with you. You are part of the movement. This is not a monologue of Derek Israel. It seems like that. But really, what this is a movement. I need you to do it. I cannot do it alone. If I don't have your life to transform the movement, it doesn't move. Duh. I am not actualizing the principles. I am not actualizing the direction. I need your soul. I need your mind to transform. And then I need you to empower yourself and to transform other people with your own fruit, with your own gift, with your own talent, with your own movement. And if you do that, you are realizing my movement by realizing your movement. And that is the exponential cycle of goodness, of greatness. That is the direction. But that is my movement, right? Our movement. You need to find out what is your movement. And hey, just because you are a part of my movement, of our movement, that doesn't necessarily implies that you will not be able to create your own. Like I am a participant of other movements and I have my own movement. Every human being is no an island. We are not apart. We are just a node in an infinite network, and we are functioning on that network, and we are receiving energy from the network, and we are giving back energy to the network. But every time that we receive and give back energy, we transform the energy with our essence. So the energy that goes in the output is not the same that came in the input. It's a different pattern, a different wave with your psyche there, with your spirit there, right? And I hope that your spirit is very, very awesome. And if you think that mine is awesome, well, yours is awesome as well, but will be different. You see? So you need to be very precise with the type of people that you want in your movement. This is very, very important. Because not everyone will be good for your movement. There's toxic people. There is dependent people. They are people that are basically a parallel of cancer in a cellular level to movements. So exactly as a business, you need to decide what is your ideal client for your movement. And you need to pitch your movement to that people. One of the mistakes that I did early in my career is that I used to pitch my proposal for this movement to everyone. Only for Spanish speakers, yeah. But in the sense that I pitch for everyone. Like I didn't even care if you have the values of personal development. I didn't care if you was educated or not. I didn't care. I didn't care. I didn't care. I just was trying to convince everyone. And in one lens, yes, that was the right thing to do because personal development in Spanish, it was almost non-existent when I, start doing this 6 years ago. At least in Puerto Rico, it was almost non-existent. So no one in Puerto Rico was famous for this. We don't have a coach there. Now they have me. But back in the day, no one. A couple of coaches, but they were not famous. They were not powerfully influential. So I was trying to convince everyone, but I don't want to say I waste. I invested so much energy, man, trying to convince so many people that maybe the right choice will be just to try to convince the right people. Not everyone, but the right people. People that actually wants to do this. And I think that is one of my change lately in my life, in my psyche, in my career, in my approach. I don't care about everyone anymore. Yes, I love everyone. I want to help everyone, but I am not needing to help everyone. With my free content, now I just want to be able to speak to people that actually wants to improve, and they have already values that are accordingly to personal development, and they want this. To work 101 and to give my best, I only want people that are willing to pay for those. You know, I am not giving anything free anymore, and I'm just respecting my work. So I am kind of in a more mature position of my movement in this moment in my life. But I have to learn this, man. In the beginning, it was not like this, but it feels so good, and the energy flows much better. You know, one of the things why I finally can be uploading like 5 or 6 or 7 videos per day now on YouTube, TikTok, and Reels on Facebook and Instagram. And back in the day, I just maybe uploaded one per day. The real reason is because this change that I was talking about to you right now, because I am just speaking my soul now. Back in the day, I was thinking, how can I convince the people? How can I convince everyone? That was my thought process back in the day. So I thought, and then I did a video about it, a video based on that paradigm. And then I uploaded. And the next day I did one again, and the next day again, but only one video per day, because that was the rationale behind the video. But that rationale consumed most of my energy. Right now, I am not with that rationale anymore. Right now, I just ask myself, what is in my soul? What is in my soul to say? And I just record that. And now I can record 10 videos, 20 videos. The last day, a couple of days before, I did 40 videos in one take, like in 2 hours. 40 videos of 1 minute each. 40 performances. Speaking only what was on my soul, you see. And now I became more prolific because I know that I am speaking to a very specific person. And it's the person that is open enough to know what is on my soul, and that is open enough to change its own soul with this energy that I am sharing. So I'm not trying to convince anyone anymore. I just transcend that. I'm speaking only to those that are open to listening. And that is now my new objective in my movement. So you need to be very clear. You cannot speak to everyone in your movement. You see? Your mind will want to do that because you want to be inclusive and you want to have most people as possible. I get it. But understand, not always quantity is quality. And by focusing your forces, remember that episode that I shared with you yesterday, it is called Concentrate Your Forces. Watch that one, it's very important. By concentrating your forces in one point, you penetrate reality and you become super effective. So be very specific with your ideal movement players. Also, movements needs a visionary, charismatic, responsible, and driveful leader. And you are that leader. If you cannot develop these traits, you will not be the movement leader. Maybe you can start a movement, but then someone else needs to lead the movement, because a movement without a leader, probably it will not function very well. And I know that now the DAOs, like decentralized autonomous organizations, are trying to decentralize that leadership position. I don't know if that is going to work, because by network theory we know that some nodes are more powerful than others, and that those nodes are infrastructural imperative for the whole network to function. So we always need to concentrate force in a specific node, in a specific person in this organizational human network, right? That is in this example. So yeah, maybe what the DAOs will do is that they will basically decentralize a little bit the power, maybe to become more democratic organizations, and that will be very good for business, especially for corporations governance that is very unjust, specifically in capitalistic societies as in the West. But to eliminate the leadership strong position entirely, I doubt that a lot. I don't think that that will be a thing. And you need to be that node. You need to be that center, that nucleus of leadership power in order to fund and power your movement. You need to become visionary, to know what you represent, to know the direction, and to articulate that direction with a very, very convincing and persuading communication and dexterity of language. You need to become charismatic. You need to be an entertainer, someone that can radiate a light of fun, a light of divineness. When you're charismatic, you are basically a god. And when you study charisma, you know that charisma comes from God likes attributes or God likes traits, God likes attributions. The charismatic leader is a messiah. That is what it is. And other people will project that archetype into him, even if he doesn't want that. They will do it. Even if Gandhi didn't want others to think that he was a messiah, other people think that about him. Even if Martin Luther King didn't want to others to think that he was God, other people think that he was his God, because people project that thing to a charismatic leader. That is part of the archetypal movement and constellations. In the future, I will be doing an episode about archetypal constellations. Also, you need to be responsible, of course, organized, diligent, brave, disciplined. You cannot sustain your movement if you are very chaotic. You have to have a degree of organization. And if you are not the most organized guy or woman in the world, well, surround yourself with other movements, the movement players that are organized. You need to compensate your weaknesses with other players. And also, you need to be a drive, full leader, like a motivated, inspired, energetically enthusiastic leader. You need to permeate energy. You need to radiate inspiration. If you don't have this impetus, if you don't have this magnetism, this urgency to make things done, to drive the world forward with your movement, with the togetherness of our soul, with our collective movement, this is very important. You need to convince people that we are on this together. It's a movement. It's not only one guy movement. It's a collective movement. People needs to be identified, inspired to do it with you. And you need to provide that energy. So just notice it's difficult, right? You may be saying, man, sometimes I don't have energy even for my own. Well, just imagine to have an energy for thousands and thousands, maybe millions of people that are part of your movement. That's why I tell you, maybe this is not for you, but maybe it is. Maybe it is. Also, you need to be very, very aware to not exploit the members of your movement. Remember, the ego is tricky, and the ego will sabotage your movement. That is guaranteed. Your ego will find his voice in your movement. So you need to be supra conscious of your ego and how your ego is trying to manipulate some members of the movement or the direction of the movement or the representation of the movement. And you need to be conscious enough to be very grounded as a leader. Because if not, you're going to exploit people, maybe sexually, maybe economically, maybe psychologically, maybe politically. And you don't want that. You don't want to exploit no one. You will have a lot of power. You see, people will give you their soul and they will do whatever you want them to do. That's why a lot of cult leaders, they create movements, and then like Jim Jones, he say, "Hey, everyone, kill yourself." And they do it. Just study that story about Jim Jones and his movement. They all, most of them killed themselves in a mass suicide just because he told people to do it. And before he told people to do it, he was exploiting them in all the facets, psychologically, sexually, economically, politically, religiously, spiritually. Oh my God, this guy was a psychopath. He was a case, man. And so don't be a James Jones, be a Jim Jones, sorry. Be a Christ. Christ, he made his movement. Christianity. Obviously, his Christianity was very different than today's Christianity, and the Christianity that people after him made with the church, with the Bible that is very, very, very um partial because it's not complete. They put the information they wanted, yes. So, but just Christ as the guy, he created a very strong, solid movement in his days until he died. He basically, was killed. So be more like Christ. Don't exploit people. If they don't want to pertain to your movement, that's okay. You can do it without them. You don't need everyone. You just need the key players and a good movement to lead and the characteristics to lead it. Right? And finally, the ultimate purpose of a movement, of your movement, is to move without you, to achieve a collective immortality. So if your movement needs you to move, you are not there yet. And in the beginnings, of course, it will need you. It will need the leader. It will need the founder in the beginning part. But after you die, it's like Ocho, for example. Ocho has a very strong movement, even today. He died. He's one of the best gurus ever. I'm reading one of the most profound books that I have read ever from Osho, and it is called, that book, if you want to read it, I recommend it 100%. It is called The Books of Secrets from Osho. And Osho, he created a movement when he was alive, but now he's dead, and the movement continue. Like they have their own newsletter, the products, people still go to Osho retreats. Like the movement continues with other leaders of that doctrine. So that is your goal, to create a movement that can move without you. And if you are familiarized with the term, the perpetual movement, you know what I'm talking about better. That is an episode. It's on English. It is called How to Create the Perpetual Motion Machine. How to create the perpetual motion machine. That is basically how to move forever. And I have another episode that I recommend that is called Authenticity, How to Move Forever. I think that is the title. Authenticity, How to Move Forever. So those two episodes are very important for this last stage of a movement, that basically you die or you retire or you step out and the movement continue forward, expanding and expanding and expanding, because already you injected with your spirit, with your pattern, with your signature, and now they don't need your human form anymore. Your material form is not needed anymore. Your spirit is already driving forward everything. And of course, your spirit will become alive when another mind bring your spirit to aliveness by using your ideas to update your ideas, to adapt to the new evolutions, and to continue moving forward, moving forward, moving forward. Your spirit with other people's spirit is no spirit. It's pattern within patterns in a fractal, eternal, perpetual movement that we can call a collective progress that was inspired by you, through you, in your life, if you decide to do it, if you know what to represent, if you know how to lead, if you decide to lead, if you are very precise with the people that you want to include in your movement, if you become charismatic enough, if you become visionary enough, if you don't exploit the members, and if you actualize your soul. And this is the way. This is in a nutshell how you create a movement, a legendary movement. Now, it's in your hands what type of movement you will create. Of course, it must be very connected to your life purpose. If you want to discover your life purpose, go to derekisrael.com. I have a course on that. It must be very connected to your integrity. If you want to know more about integrity, go to derekisrael.com and buy my course, Ultimate Integrity. It must be very connected to your self-love and to your ultimate truth. If you want more on that, watch my episode titled What is Truth and How to Actualize It. So, yeah, folks, I hope that you are the one. I hope that you are the one that create a legendary movement. Please, my friend, donate on Patreon. The link is on the description. By donating, you guarantee that this podcast will stay free for people to transform their lives. Also, join our Telegram group. It's completely free. The link is on the description. And go and visit derekisrael.com. There you can reserve my guru services. You can make me your personal coach and also your psychologist. And also, you will be able to enroll in my courses and in the books that I will be publishing very soon. So I see you at derekisrael.com.